They kicked him out of the restaurant because he was disturbing the customers. Old, torn clothes, disheveled hair, dragging leg. But 30 minutes later, everyone in that restaurant stood up in silence. Because the small box that fell from that man's pocket showed them who he really was. Hello, welcome to the Hidden Stories. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Let us know in the comments, and if this story moves you, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the greatest heroes come in the most unexpected disguises. Auguste's restaurant. On Madison Avenue in the heart of New York was one of the city's most prestigious dining establishments. A dinner at this Michelin-starred restaurant averaged $500, and getting a reservation required months on the waiting list. That Saturday evening at 7:45 p.m., the restaurant was packed as usual. Wall Street executives, Hollywood stars, diplomats, and representatives from New York's most elite families sat under crystal chandeliers, enjoying the famous French cuisine of Chef Antoine Dubois. Restaurant manager Jonathan Caldwell surveyed his dining room, adorned with silk tablecloths and silver candelabras, with satisfaction. He had been doing this job for 18 years and paid attention to every detail to maintain Auguste's prestige. The clientele was extremely selective. Only New York's elite could sit at these tables. Jonathan was 42 years old, a Harvard business school graduate who always wore perfect suits and whose styled hair never got disheveled. Working at Auguste's wasn't just a job for him. It was about social status. This was where New York's most important names gathered, and he was an integral part of that world. Just then, Auguste's heavy glass door chimed. The man who entered was the most inappropriate customer Jonathan had seen in his 18-year career. 75 years old, tall but with slumped shoulders, his white hair appeared unwashed for several days. He wore a worn military jacket. The NATO green color had now turned almost brown, sleeves frayed, buttons missing. His pants had large holes at the knees, and his shoes were so worn that the soles were nearly merged with the ground. But the most noticeable thing was his walk. He was completely dragging his left leg, grimacing with each step as if avoiding pain. He tried to hold onto the wall with his right hand, struggling to maintain balance. It was clearly visible that his left leg wasn't working, either amputated or paralyzed. "Good evening," the man said, his voice strong despite his age, but somewhat hesitant. "Could I get a table?" Jonathan froze for a moment. The customers at surrounding tables were also starting to notice. Women frowned. Men turned their faces away in disgust. Auguste's luxurious atmosphere seemed to be ruined in an instant. Television producer Catherine Morrison, sitting at table number 7, whispered to her friend, "What is this man doing here? Look at his appearance." "Terrible," replied the woman next to her. "Probably came from the streets." Jonathan put on his professional smile, but his voice was cold and distant. "Sir, I'm afraid our reservations are completely full for this evening. Perhaps somewhere else. "I don't have a reservation," the old man interjected calmly. "But please, just a small table. I can sit in the corner. I won't disturb anyone. I've wanted to eat at a place like this for so long." Jonathan looked around. There really were 2 empty tables in the corner, but the thought of seating this man here filled him with horror. He didn't fit Auguste's customer profile at all and was completely ruining the ambience. Other customers were already becoming uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, sir," Jonathan said, making his voice even colder. "We really don't have space. I can recommend more suitable places for you in Chinatown or on the Lower East Side. You'll find options more suitable for your budget there." A flash of hurt passed through the old man's eyes. He adjusted his jacket collar with his right hand and slightly bowed his head. "I understand," he said quietly. "I apologize for the disturbance." As he began to turn around, real estate tycoon Benjamin Armstrong from table number 12 stood up. His voice was loud enough to be heard throughout the entire dining room. "Excuse me, but is this man really wanted here? Because I paid $600 to come here for a prestigious dinner, not to encounter such ... sights." Behind his voice, other customers also began murmuring. "Benjamin is right," said the woman next to him, not lowering her tone at all. "These types of people don't fit Auguste's standards at all." The couple at table 15 also joined the conversation. "Absolutely. We come here to relax." Jonathan now had to take a very clear position. His customers' complaints had reached a peak. "Sir," he said to the old man, his voice now stern and authoritative, "please leave the restaurant immediately. You're disturbing our customers, and this is unacceptable." The old man stopped. He slowly turned and looked at Jonathan. In that look was the weight of years, deep fatigue, and perhaps disappointment. But there was no anger. "Of course," he said quietly. "I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to disturb anyone." He began walking toward the door, dragging his left leg, groaning slightly with each step. He tried to hold onto walls with his right hand to maintain balance. Restaurant customers watched him, some returning to their champagne with relieved faces. "Finally," someone murmured, "now we can eat in comfort." Just as he reached the door, his dragging left foot caught on something in his military jacket pocket, and he completely lost his balance. He grabbed the door frame to avoid falling, but at that moment a small, black leather box fell from his pocket. The box hit the marble floor hard, and its lid opened. A bright, golden medal emerged. On a dark blue ribbon, star-shaped with 5 points, with Congress clearly written on it, along with an eagle figure. Medal of Honor, the highest military honor of the United States. Given to only 3,500 people throughout history. The most prestigious medal awarded to soldiers who showed extraordinary heroism, risking their lives to protect their comrades and country. The restaurant suddenly fell into cemetery silence. The music stopped. Conversation ceased. Even the sound of glasses was gone. Nearly 50 customers were frozen, staring at that medal. The old man slowly bent down. With his right hand, he took the medal and carefully placed it in its box. He put it in his pocket. Without looking at anyone, he bowed his head and walked straight to the door and went outside. Jonathan was frozen. In his 18-year career, he had never experienced anything like this. Medal of Honor. That man had a Medal of Honor. Customers were looking at each other. Benjamin Armstrong's face had turned ashen. Was that a Medal of Honor? Whispered. Someone from the tables. An elderly woman stood up from a corner table. Dr. Eleanor Stevens, a retired military surgeon and former colonel herself. She knew that medal very well. "Yes," she said, her voice trembling but determined. That was a Medal of Honor, the highest military honor this country can bestow. It's only given to soldiers who show extraordinary heroism. The restaurant was plunged into deep silence. No one knew what to say. Dr. Stevens continued. To receive a Medal of Honor, you must come face to face with death. Everyone who receives that medal has risked their own life to save others' lives. Benjamin Armstrong sat down. His face had gone white. What did I say to him? Jonathan could move now. He quickly rushed between tables to the door. He went outside and looked left and right. The old man was slowly walking away on Madison Avenue, dragging his left leg and holding on to walls with his right hand. "Sir," Jonathan called out. "Sir, please wait." The old man stopped and turned. There was neither anger nor resentment on his face, only deep fatigue. "What do you want?" he asked calmly. Jonathan reached him breathlessly. The contrast between his own luxury suit and the old man's torn clothes was very striking. I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake." Please come back. I'll give you our best table. Order whatever you want. Everything's on me." The old man shook his head. "No need, young man. You're changing your behavior because you saw my medal. But I'm still the same man. Same torn clothes, same disabled leg. Same old body. But you have a Medal of Honor. This country's highest honor." "Yes," the man said. "And that doesn't mean I deserve different treatment. Every person deserves respect, whether they have a medal or not. You should have treated me with honor, even without my medal." Jonathan was filled with shame. "Please, at least tell me your name. I want to know how I can make this up to you." The old man thought for a moment. "Robert Chen," he finally said. "But I'm not Chen to you. I'm just the old man who disturbed your restaurant customers." After these words, he turned around and continued walking, dragging his left leg, holding on to walls as he moved forward. Jonathan watched him helplessly. When he returned to the restaurant, the atmosphere had completely changed. Customers were waiting silently. No one was eating. Everyone wanted to know what had happened, who that man was. Jonathan entered the dining room and cleared his throat. "Dear customers," he said, his voice trembling, "we just made a terrible mistake. That man was a Medal of Honor recipient veteran." The noise level in the restaurant suddenly increased. Everyone started talking. Benjamin Armstrong stood up. "Medal of Honor? Are you serious? I remember how I treated him." "My God." Dr. Stevens called out from her table. "Very few people have received the Medal of Honor. Only 3,500 people in this country's history have been awarded it. Each one is a true hero, and we treated him like a dog." Jonathan's hands were shaking uncontrollably. A waiter came to his side. "Boss, should I research who that man is?" "Did you get his name?" "Yes," Jonathan said decisively. "Robert Chen. Find out everything. Which war, when, what he did, everything." The waiter took out his phone and started calling. 20 minutes later, he returned, his face pale. "Boss," he said in a low voice, but loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "I found that man, Robert Chen, Vietnam veteran. In 1969, while stationed in the Mekong Delta during a Viet Cong attack, he rescued 52 American soldiers trapped on a bombed bridge." Jonathan's knees gave out. 52 soldiers? Yes. While the bridge was collapsing under enemy fire, he went back 6 times. Each time he rescued 8 to 10 soldiers and carried them to safety. The last time he went, an enemy mortar completely shattered his left leg, but he still rescued the final group. Some restaurant customers were now starting to cry. The waiter continued. His left leg was amputated below the knee. He stayed in the hospital for 2 years. The Medal of Honor was awarded in 1971. He's now 75 years old, living in a small apartment in Queens. His wife died of a heart attack 6 years ago. Does he have children? He has 1 son, David Chen, but their financial situation is very bad. Robert Chen can't replace his prosthetic leg because new prosthetics are too expensive. Jonathan sat down. What had he done? That man had saved 52 people's lives, lost his leg, was now living in poverty, and he had kicked him out. Dr. Stevens stood up and walked toward Jonathan. "Young man," she said sternly, "do you understand the magnitude of what that man sacrificed? To receive a Medal of Honor, it's not enough to just be brave. You must be ready to sacrifice your own life to save others' lives." "I didn't know. You didn't need to know," Dr. Stevens said. "But you needed to show him respect as a human being. Those torn clothes, that disabled leg, these are the marks of the price he paid for this country." Benjamin Armstrong got up from his table and approached Jonathan. "We need to find this man. We need to apologize to him. Think about how we can make amends. Most of the restaurant customers had now abandoned their meals and were listening to this conversation. Some had tears in their eyes, some were filled with shame. One customer stood up. "I'm ashamed to be here today. How did we treat that man?" Another customer. "We're all guilty. We judged him based on his appearance. Dr. Stevens, this isn't just this place's problem. It's about how we as a society treat our veterans. They gave everything for this country. And this is our reward to them?" Jonathan made his decision. "I apologize to all of you. Tonight, everyone's bill is paid by the establishment. And I'm going to find Robert Chen." He took out his phone and called his assistant. "Sarah, there's an emergency. Find contact information for a man named Robert Chen, Vietnam veteran, Medal of Honor recipient, lives in Queens." An hour later, the phone rang. "Boss, I found him. But it's a very sad situation. That man lives in one of the poorest areas of Queens. I found his address." Jonathan jumped in his car and headed toward Queens. The address was in one of the city's poorest neighborhoods. Old, collapsed buildings, broken. Windows, street lamps not working. Jonathan felt very foreign when he entered this street with his luxury BMW. He found the building. A 4-story building with peeling paint and creaking stairs. He climbed to the second floor and found apartment 2C. He knocked on the door. Footsteps came. From inside, the sound of a dragging foot. "Who is it?" Robert's voice asked. "Mr. Chen, this is Jonathan Caldwell from Auguste's restaurant. Would you please open the door?" A long silence. Then the door slowly opened out. Robert stood before him, now wearing an old tracksuit. A metal prosthetic was visible on his left leg, an old model, worn out. "What do you want?" he asked. Jonathan looked around. The apartment was very small and Spartan. Only necessary items. A chair, small television, a few plates in the kitchen. Old military photographs and the Medal of Honor certificate hung on the wall. "Mr. Chen, I came to apologize to you. I made a terrible mistake." Robert shook his head. "You already apologized." "No, I behaved unacceptably. I didn't see you as a human being. I just judged you based on your appearance." "That's your job," Robert said. "You run a restaurant. You maintain a customer profile." "No," Jonathan said firmly. "That's no excuse. You fought for this country, were wounded, saved your comrades. I disrespected you." Robert sat in his chair, extending his prosthetic leg. "I saved 52 kids that day. 52 family sons, fathers, brothers. I lost my leg so they could go home. And you know what? I'm not sorry." Jonathan's eyes filled with tears. "That makes me even more ashamed." "You don't need to be ashamed," Robert said, "but learn something. Appearance means nothing. I may be poor. I may be old. I may be disabled. But that doesn't make me less valuable." Jonathan stood up. "Mr. Chen, I want to make you an offer. I'm listening. Lifetime free meals at Auguste's. You can come any time, sit at any table, order whatever you want." Robert laughed. "You're very kind, but I don't like those expensive foods. I just want to be treated like a regular person." "Then let's make amends another way," Jonathan said. "I want to learn your story. Your real story." Robert thought for a moment. "Why?" "Because people need to know. They need to know that heroes like you exist. And I learned a big lesson today." Robert stood up with the sound of his prosthetic leg and looked at an old photograph on the wall. In the black and white photo, a young soldier was smiling in his uniform. Both his legs were perfectly healthy. "I went to Vietnam in 1968 when I was 21, he began. From one of New York's poor neighborhoods, from Queens. My family was poor. I didn't have money for college. The Army seemed like a new beginning. To me. Jonathan listened carefully. We were on a bridge operation in the Mekong Delta. Our company was just doing reconnaissance. We weren't expecting a big battle. But on the morning of March 20th, everything changed. Robert sat in his chair, positioning his prosthetic leg comfortably. At 5:30 in the morning, the enemy attack began. Our bridge was bombed. Half of it collapsed. 52 soldiers were trapped inside, under the debris, beneath the bridge. Enemy fire continued. His voice grew quieter. My commander said, "Chun, you can't go into that bridge. It's suicide." But I could hear those kids' voices. They were calling for help. Some were 18 to 19 years old. Jonathan couldn't breathe. I went into the bridge. I cleared the debris, got the first group out, 10 people. Then I went back again. Second group, 12 people. Third time, 15 people. But the fourth time I went in, Robert lifted his pants. The prosthetic leg was completely visible. Enemy mortar blew off my left leg from the knee down. But there were still 15 soldiers on the bridge. While bleeding continued, I crawled back in. I got the last group out too. What happened next? I was taken to the hospital. They couldn't save my leg. They amputated it. I stayed in the hospital for 2 years. When I returned home, they held a Medal of Honor ceremony. But I was just thinking about having saved my comrades. Jonathan was crying silently. What happened after that? I got married. To a beautiful girl, Mary. We were married for 40 years. We didn't have children for a long time. Then David was born. I worked various jobs: mailman, security guard, janitor. It was hard with the prosthetic leg, but I worked. Mary was a nurse. A modest but happy life. What happened to Mary? She died of a heart attack 6 years ago. Now I live with my son. David is a good kid, but he's having a hard time too. His wife is sick. They have children. Robert fell silent, looking at Mary's photograph on the wall. But you know what? Knowing that those 52 soldiers are still alive makes me happy. They returned home, started families, had children. My sacrifice gave them life. Jonathan was now crying uncontrollably. Mr. Chun, you are a true hero, and I treated you so badly. Jonathan, Robert said gently, today you taught me a lesson. I taught you a lesson too. Now we're both better people. Jonathan stood up. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank. Just don't treat people based on their appearance from now on. Everyone has a story. Everyone has their own battle. Just then, the door knocked. A young man entered. David Chun. Dad, who is this? He asked. David, this is Jonathan. From the restaurant. David became worried. Is there a problem? No, son, Robert said. Jonathan came to apologize to me. Jonathan turned to David. Your father is a true hero. I treated him very badly. David smiled. My dad never gets angry at anyone. He's always understanding. There's one more thing, Jonathan said. Tomorrow evening, I want to organize a special dinner in honor of your father and Auguste's, for Medal of Honor recipients and veterans. Free. Robert's eyes lit up. I like this idea. But not for me. Let other veterans come. They deserve respect too. David got excited. Dad, this is wonderful. You can reunite with your old friends. When Jonathan returned to the restaurant, he was still lost in thought. The next day, he placed ads in all New York newspapers. Auguste's restaurant invites all veterans to a free dinner tomorrow evening, in honor of Vietnam veteran Robert Chen. The next evening, the restaurant was packed. Young veterans, old veterans, disabled veterans, healthy veterans. Everyone had come wearing their best clothes. Robert came too. This time wearing a clean suit. With David's help, he had combed his hair. But he was still dragging his left leg, limping with his prosthetic. Jonathan greeted him and seated him at the most special table. David was also there, helping his father. Throughout the meal, veterans shared their own stories. Stories from Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, Korea. Everyone had a story of sacrifice. But none was as dramatic as Robert's story. Robert also told his own story, the 1969 bridge operation in Mekong, going back 6 times to save 52 comrades, losing his leg, the hospital process. But you know, Robert said, the hardest part was afterward. When I came home, people started treating me differently. Some treated me like a hero. Others were afraid of me like I was a crazy veteran. A young veteran asked, "How did you endure?" "It? Very simple," Robert said, knowing that those 52 soldiers were alive. They returned home, got married, had children, grandchildren. My sacrifice gave them life. The room filled with applause. At the end of the evening, Robert approached. "Jonathan." "Thank you, Jonathan. Tonight was wonderful. I reunited with my old friends." "I thank you, Robert. You made me a better person." "No," Robert said with a smile. "You were already a good person. You just needed to be reminded." From that day on, Jonathan's restaurant completely changed. He now treated everyone with respect, not just the wealthy. Every Sunday Veterans Dinner became Auguste's most important event. Robert also became a regular customer. With David's help, he would come once a week, sit at his corner table, eat simple meals, and chat with other veterans. His prosthetic leg wasn't a problem anymore. Jonathan had arranged a special chair and adjusted the table according to Robert's leg. 6 months later, Jonathan prepared a special surprise for Robert. He had gotten him the latest technology prosthetic leg. "What is this, Jonathan?" Robert asked. "My gift to you. The latest technology prosthetic. You'll be able to walk much more comfortably." Robert's eyes filled with tears. "This must be very expensive." "It doesn't matter at all. You saved 52 people's lives. I want to make your life a little easier." With the new prosthetic, Robert became a different person. He walked much more comfortably. His pain had decreased. His visits to the restaurant became more frequent. A year later, Robert began having health problems, the effects of old age and old wounds. Jonathan visited him in the hospital. "Robert, how are you feeling?" "Good, Jonathan. But it's slowly time to say goodbye." "Don't talk like that." "No, that's the reality. But don't be sad. I lived a beautiful life. I saved 52 soldiers, married a beautiful woman, had a good son, taught you how to be human." Jonathan began to cry. "I want to tell you one last thing," Robert said. "The day I was kicked out of that restaurant, I was very hurt. But then I realized this was an opportunity for me, an opportunity to teach you and other people. You changed my life, and you changed mine too. Thanks to that veterans dinner, I made many new friends. I wasn't alone anymore." 2 months later, Robert Chen passed away. Hundreds of people attended his funeral. Vietnam veterans, other veterans, restaurant customers, Jonathan and his staff. On his grave it said, "Robert Chen Vietnam Veteran Medal of Honor recipient, saved the lives of 52 American soldiers, humble hero, great human being." Jonathan visits Robert's grave every month. And every Sunday at Auguste's, the Veterans Honor Dinner continues. But most importantly, Jonathan's life philosophy completely changed. He now trains every staff member working at the restaurant. Don't treat people based on their appearance. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a struggle. Our job is to show respect to everyone. Auguste's is no longer just a restaurant. It has also become a place of learning. Customers come not just to eat, but also to learn lessons of respect and empathy. Robert's photograph still sits on Jonathan's table. Below it says, "To Robert Chen, the man who taught me how to be human, A year later, Jonathan appeared on a national television program. He told the story. Robert Chen taught me the biggest lesson of my life. True value is inside a person, not outside. He looked old, disabled, poor. But he was actually a hero who had saved 52 people's lives. I judged him based on his appearance. This is the greatest shame of my life. The program was watched by millions of people. Afterward, similar Veterans Honor dinners began nationwide. But Robert's greatest legacy wasn't at Auguste's. It was in Jonathan's heart. That old man had taught him this. True greatness is not in medals, but in character. True honor is not in ranks, but in how we treat others. And true heroism is not on the battlefield, but in the humanity we show in daily life. The most beautiful thing about this story is this. Robert Chen never sought revenge, never got angry, never held grudges. He just showed understanding, because that's how true heroes behave. That day at Auguste's, it wasn't just an old man who was kicked out. That day, actually, a society's conscience was questioned, and the answer came from the golden medal inside. A small black box dot the Medal of Honor is not just a medal. It is the symbol of courage. It is proof of sacrifice. And most importantly, it is a reminder. The greatest heroes sometimes appear in the most ordinary disguises. If you see someone like Robert Chen on the street today, old, disabled, wearing torn clothes, walking with a prosthetic leg, show them respect, because they may have saved the life of someone who saved your life. This story teaches us this. We should try to learn people's stories before judging them, because everyone has a past, everyone has a sacrifice, everyone has honor. Silent. Heroes like Robert Chen live everywhere. It is our duty to recognize them, to show them respect. And remember, true value is not in appearance, but inside the person. David Chen still keeps his father's prosthetic leg. It's proof of my dad's heroism, he says. That leg saved 52 people's lives, and every Sunday at Auguste's, a small plaque sits on Robert Chen's table. This table is dedicated in honor of Robert Chen, Medal of Honor recipient, hero who saved 52 soldiers' lives. Never to be forgotten. Now, I ask you, have you ever met someone like Robert Chen? Someone who appeared ordinary, but actually had an extraordinary past. Someone who looked disabled, old, or sick, but had actually made great sacrifices? Share their story in the comments. Let their honor live on. And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Because the stories of silent heroes deserve to be told. Their sacrifices must not be forgotten. Because sometimes the greatest heroes come in the most unexpected disguises.